Did we just unwrap a hidden gem in the mummy's kiss?
Stop!
To answer John's question, absolutely not. This is by Donald F. Glut. We knew exactly what we were getting into here. When you see seduction cinema pop up on the screen, you're like, okay, here we go. This is gonna be a softcore. And it pretty much, yeah, including the acting, was pretty on par. But there was more story than I expected, and we'll get into it. This is gonna be full of spoilers. I don't think you care, but we'll just talk about some of the highlights. We aren't going to step through this whole thing because there's only so much we can talk about. Because there are like 7-minute scenes where just Egyptian goddesses licking each other and stuff. We can't really show you all that. But I enjoyed what I saw in those aspects. The movie itself, not stellar, but it does have a mummy.
It has a mummy, a really good-looking mummy, and a babe that plays the mummy.
Well, the babe is also good-looking. They're both good-looking.
They're both good-looking. Like one looks good, and then one looks good.
John Carl Buechler did the effects, which is pretty cool. So a lot of people might know him from his work on really important creature effects from back in the day. But we've got Carter, Professor Carter. He works as like an ancient history teacher, and every single woman loves him.
He's the hunk of the school. All of his students get topless for him. Everyone.
Every single one.
Every single one. And they don't do it solo. They do it in groups. They corner him and just each take their tops off and say, well, some of them didn't even want the grades. They just wanted to bang.
Think he'll finally notice?
If he doesn't, he's either blind or gay.
There's one time he's like, I'm not coming to class today. My assistant is gonna be taking over the class today. The class just walks out. Like, well, this is BS.
Corners them in the hallway, takes their top off. Then the one girl was reaching for something, but we don't know what.
That was my favorite. She was like, ugh.
So please,
Professor Moore.
cover.
But he's romantically involved with Anna,
Another student.
who is of Egyptian descent.
And happens to be the niece of his colleague?
Yeah,
the other professor.
The other professor who seems of a higher status. He's played by Richard Lynch, and he has the best wardrobe. He just wears like capes and stuff all the time.
Strangely enough, he's okay with Carter making love with his niece who's a student. It should be frowned upon, I might add, that professors should not be sleeping with their students.
Well, it's a university, so it's whatever.
It's still frowned upon.
Isn't there some rule about students and faculty fraternizing?
Well, I'll look it up. Someday.
It is what it is in this film.
But it's
about kissing.
It's about kissing. But it's also about the campus warehouse where Dr. Wallace has all of his Egyptian findings. He's a big archaeologist and he has teams all over the world trying to dig stuff up for his personal collection that he keeps on the campus. And one of the items that he has is a mummy. And that's in the warehouse, but he also has the mummy's heart in his office.
And the mummy who's in the warehouse is actually in love with Anna, who is a descendant of the pharaoh, as we learned. So when they're revealing the mummy, Anna touches her hand and we get a 10-minute sex scene. Not really sex, because they just
graze over each other as you do.
Rub each other with their bodies. I guess they're nude too. They're not really wearing any clothes.
Yeah, but they're not doing anything either.
Yeah, they're not going full acclaimed on us.
Daddy loves to scissor!
She wakes up from passing out. They kind of move on. The security guys are like, I'm gonna go investigate.
Only one of them. The other one was being a good security guard. He warned them.
Aren't you even just a wee bit curious?
Hell no. I suggest you get rid of any such fool ideas.
The one guy goes over and he's like, what's going on in here?
I don't think Doc Harlow would get too mad at me if I just take a little peek at you.
And then the mummy sucks some of his life force.
Everyone else got a kiss.
Yeah, he
did not get the mummy's kiss, as stated in the title.
But there are more mummy's kisses.
Lots of mummy's kisses.
The other security guard goes to investigate as well. She actually just instantly turns into this hot babe that turns him into a slave.
Through the mummy's kiss. Our first mummy's kiss. Yeah, I guess it's a mummy's because the flashback doesn't count. She wasn't a mummy then. She was a person.
She kissed many people while she was a mummy and when she was not a mummy.
The title is very accurate. There's lots of kissing in this film.
But the mummy starts to go about her day. She starts joining the classes. She hangs out with Anna because she finds out oh, she's Egyptian.
This is one of my students, Anna Harwa. Anna is also Egyptian.
They go on a little lunch date. She gives her an amulet, and then she starts to kind of continue being taken over. After her flashback, she's like, I recognize you from something.
Something about you reminds me of Egypt.
Anna is slowly being
entranced
by our mummy. Meanwhile, Carter is dealing with issues of all of his students wanting to sleep with him.
Very difficult issues.
And his teacher assistant, she wants him too. She's rubbing his shoulders because he's all stressed out, and you could tell, but there's friction between them.
Oh yeah, Tina wanted him bad.
Carter finally thinks something is up because he's like, hey, I'm going over to make love to my girlfriend, Anna, and she's rejecting me. She doesn't want to be with me anymore. She breaks up with me.
Something new?
So then Carter goes to her uncle and says, hey, I think something's going on with Anna right now, okay? Because she's acting weird, there's no dates, she didn't want me to touch her, kiss her.
And then we get a huge exposition dump of the mummy's backstory, which we won't get into because it's pretty convoluted.
It's another one of those flashback sensual scenes.
It was a sensual scene of cheating in a pool. We'll leave it at that, with a cool crocodile in the background.
There was a cool croc, and though we can talk about the mummification, because they did explain her mummification with his descriptions of non-ceremonial ceremonies.
They placed her without ceremony inside a coffin.
It seems like a ceremony to me. Look at all this process. Come on. The mummy is instructed by a couple ghosts, one with a hilarious beard that looks like yarn, and a topless babe who danced throughout the intro where it's literally just her boobs in frame, which I can't show you. So she's gathering her minions, who are the students, and then she goes for her heart in Richard Lynch's office.
He goes down, so now it's ceremony time. Anna's fully committed to the mummy, and she's on the table.
Now, before I perform the sacred rites upon your body, let us once more enjoy the pleasures of this world.
The ceremony is about to happen.
Yeah.
They're gonna be eternal lovers. They should have just let it happen. Hear me out.
No, I'm not hearing you out.
Hear me
I don't
out.
want to be fucking sacrificed.
She wasn't getting sacrificed.
It had a knife in her hand.
It was so the two of them could be one in love. She wanted her love back.
She wanted her body.
The princess's spirit and body will again be one.
Maybe.
I think she wanted literally her body.
Does she want her body or does she want her body? Loved her.
I
They
think she
banged a
wanted
lot.
both things. All that licking that we saw, that was just her. Okay, yeah, this is a prime cut of meat for me to put my soul into.
Okay, so maybe I will retract my statement, but my logic behind it, if it's not that they wanted to be in love, Carter shouldn't have stopped it. At this point, he's already committed himself to Tina, his assistant.
Yeah, he kissed her forehead.
Yeah.
Grabbed her leg little.
That, I think, was the hilarious scene when the students come in and just rip her clothes apart. It's Carter's here, choke to the ground. Tina? Well, let's get her naked.
It's not in slow motion, but it's very slow. It's did you guys even plan this? She has a button-up shirt, and they're like, okay, we're trying to be ravaged, but we also need to unbutton her shirt one button at a time, and we need to show it in real time. It's fucking weird.
It's very hilarious. This is when Carter finally, comes to realization that he's in love with her.
He looks at her boobs, looks at her okay, this is my babe now.
He's loved Egyptian culture so much that he just fantasized about wanting to marry an Egyptian.
You think that's what it was?
100%. You have all of these women throwing themselves at you, and one who isn't that interested, you're fighting for because she's Egyptian.
And because I'm sticking it to my boss.
You want him to be your uncle and your boss.
Bang your niece. He just wanted to marry into the family so you can get closer to the artifacts.
Maybe he's doing this all for the artifacts.
Carter's actually just a scumbag, dude.
He goes to save Anna, so he is, I guess, being a good guy, because if you just ended your relationship, you're not tied to this.
Yeah, he moved on pretty damn quick, though.
So yeah, I guess he's doing a good guy thing by still trying to save her.
Yeah, but things don't go as planned. But Tina does grab the mask, and she jumps on the back of the mummy in human form and jams it in her face and ends the curse.
Or so you think, because you see the mummy touch Anna's hand.
Yep.
So you know, okay, at this point, she's transferred herself into Anna's body. Hence the sequel.
Some other lifetime, my darling princess.
Why'd you have to do the ritual in the first place? She touched her at lunch the first time they met. She probably already transferred earlier. We don't know exactly the logistics of Osiris and Ra-Ma or whatever the hell they're talking about, but I guess it worked. Yep. And the sequel does exist, and I do have it because it's a double pack, and we will watch it at some point, and it looks better. It looks like there's more actual mummy action, because in this one, that's the biggest downfall. We're swapping out like a fun mummy costume for like a nude babe mummy. And well, on paper, that sounds wonderful, but it's not necessarily what I wanted. Especially when I'm sitting on a couch with my boys, watching a movie. I don't want to watch a softcore porn. Not every time. This was kind of what we expected, but it wasn't that great. It had a lot of nudity, which was wonderful. It just had too little of an actual mummy walking around, because that's what you wanted to see watching the mummies kiss. The dialogue is hilarious.
I see you're developing quite an interest in ancient Egypt, Anna.
It was my uncle's influence, I guess.
It's not necessarily the worst acting, but it's definitely cheesy and you can have a good laugh with it. But the movie does drag on quite a bit. Even though it's only an hour and a half, it feels like it just goes on because there's so much exposition that just seems completely unnecessary, and there's next to no action. It's not necessarily worth a watch, but it is enough to make me want to watch a sequel. So I'm gonna give this 1.5 mummy wraps out of 5.
I was greatly disappointed in this film. Like,
you wanted it.
I wanted it. I look at the cover. I knew exactly what this film was gonna be. It was gonna be riddled with sensual scenes, topless women, and terrible acting. That is not why I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that we had a really cool looking mummy, and it's a mummy film. I would have appreciated it more if the transformation to big-breasted babe happened later in the film. She sucked one life force and was like back to her old looking self. There's just not enough mummy in this film. But I'm excited for the sequel. I really hope they focus more on the mummy and less on the kissing. So with that being said, I'm gonna give this film 1 sexy reading time out of 5.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video, comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it, which I doubt you have. But if you want another like low-key banger, check out Donald Glut's Blood Scarab, which we also did a review for, but I think it's on the other channel. I'll link that in the description and the pinned comment, so check that out. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss when we cover The Mummy's Kiss, Second Dynasty.
You fools. My power is even stronger now than it has ever been. I can do things to you that you've never imagined.